let's go. 2 cup, please.
I've been a chef for over 50 years.
Service.
And I've come to realise that the food we eat tells a story about who we are.
So I'm on a mission to find out what we all like to eat today.
Oh, that is good.
From our traditional dishes
Long live the Yorkshire pudding.
to those we've made our own.
I mean, that is multifaceted Britain on one page.
I'll meet producers.
There you see a robot. It's picking them.
I find a lot of craft beers too hoppy. Don't know why, but it tastes all right.
Some of our best chefs,
We're picking scurvy grass.
Crikey.
Pretty punchy.
plus those keeping traditions alive.
We've just got to finish. I had no hope.
I'll see how food brings us together.
Lovely, that sort of hot garlic. Fabuloso.
And from my home in Padstow, I'll bring you great dishes of my own.
Love stuff like this. So join me as I unearth the stories behind the food we all love to eat today.
Padstow in Cornwall, the place I call home. While it might not look like a hotbed of revolutionary ideas, when I opened my first restaurant here back in 1975, serving a mainly fish menu, it caused quite a stir. And ever since, I've been obsessed with uncovering the best and boldest ideas in British food.
Well, welcome to the kitchen where it all started for me about 50 years ago. A little bit bigger now than it was then. But over those 50 years, the whole UK has transformed, I think, in terms of food. And especially cooking dishes from all around the world, which now you can find here in the UK. Plus, of course, we've still got our classic dishes, and we all still love our roast beef and Yorkshire pudding and fish and chips. But many young chefs are now putting a spin on that and making the dishes even more exciting for the next generation.
Which is why it's the perfect time to go in search of the best food stories in the land. And I'm starting 400 miles from Cornwall in a part of the UK I love for its fierce, strong culinary traditions and its superb modern food, and for what underpins both of those, fantastic homegrown produce.
Today I'm in Cumbria. It's one of the top foodie destinations in the country. It's not just the beautiful scenery, look around you, but the bountiful produce, some of the best in the UK.
Just shy of the border with Scotland, Cumbria is home to England's biggest national park, the Lake District, and its highest peaks. The food producers who work this wild landscape are a hardy bunch, folks to be reckoned with.
The poet William Wordsworth once described the Lake District as a republic of shepherds and agriculturalists, by which he meant that the sons of the hills, as he called them, were in charge and not the upper classes. And this is still a county of small farms owned by the same families for generations.
I want to tell you the story of one of them, a sheep farm run by a family who've worked this northeastern corner of the Lake District for over 600 years.
Morning.
Morning, Rick. How are you doing?
Oh, very well, actually. Bracing up here. And what are you doing?
So we're just putting our flock mark on because these sheep live in the mountains on the fells amongst other flocks.
The sheep James Rebanks and his wife Helen and daughter Molly farm, which go on to be sold as lamb and mutton, are called Herdwicks, a breed that has been native to this landscape since the Bronze Age.
The main thing to see with the Herdwick is it's born with like this thick carpety fleece, and that lamb can be born on a snowy day on a mountainside.
Amazing fleece.
And they take no harm at all. That's fit to go to the mountain now, the fell we would call it.
Now, James is not your average sheep farmer. He's been called the most influential farmer in the UK, as he's also a best-selling author who passionately believes we can produce better food and preserve the planet by going back to the traditional non-intensive farming methods of his forefathers.
There is nothing beyond this, nothing higher, nothing more profound than these simple things. Nothing that matters more than trying to live our little life on this piece of land. This is my inheritance to my children. This is my love. Keyboard. I wrote some books, show some respect.
What do you want to talk about first? Eating your sheep or rearing them?
Well, to me, the two things go together, and I think that's the great tragedy of a lot of modern food, isn't it? We've separated eating from production of food.
Yeah.
And those two things shouldn't be separated. The way food is produced adds enormously to the flavour and the health of it and the quality of it.
Your farming methods then, tell me how it works.
It all starts with healthy soil, and we're building that by letting the pastures grow longer and mobbing up our flocks of sheep and moving them through small fields every 3 days.
In the modern system, you'd have given a field maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks rest.
Yeah.
We're getting up to sometimes as much as 120 days rest, and you just have an abundance of flowers and seeding grasses. And in the base of it, it's damper, so there's frogs and voles. You're powering the whole food chain
yeah.
up.
However, can you make money doing that? I mean, obviously you don't use pesticides or fertilisers.
Well, it's a tough old gig.
Yeah.
So there's a good side to it, which is we're massively cutting costs. We buy very, very little in terms of input. The downside is we really need people to want to buy what we're doing, to support us, to pay a little bit more in the shops for the right kind of farming, the right kind of system.
I mean, who do you sell to? Who really likes Herdwick sheep?
Well, there's a fantastic thing happens in modern Britain, which is that some of the newest British communities, so the British Asian communities, particularly in the northern towns and cities, are our best customer for our most old-fashioned mutton.
Really?
Yeah.
And it's going into curries, it's going into kebab houses, all sorts of places.
Slow cooked shoulders, legs, and being really treasured for their festivals, particularly at Ramadan, and all the farmers around in these local areas know when to time to take their sheep to the market for those
mean at
festivals.
the end of Ramadan?
At the end of Ramadan, absolutely.
Fantastic tie-up between some of the most old-fashioned, isolated, rural, very white communities and some of the most modern and diverse British communities. And I think the lesson there is sort of white British modern culture have forgotten how to eat some of these products, and we're having to be retaught that by some of the newer British communities who've got the sense to do it.
I just love James's story of mutton, bringing two very different British communities together. It seems to me that in modern Britain, it's often food which unites us. Speaking of which, I'm very happy to be joining the Rebankses for lunch, to eat a dish that has long been loved here in the north of England.
Smells so good.
And is perfect for bringing out the flavour of mutton.
So tell us about the hot pot then.
Very traditional hot pot made with a 10-year-old mutton, hill ewe, who grazed up on the fells, and I've made it with carrots, onions and a parsnip, a bit of black pudding as well. It's been slowly cooked in the bottom of the Aga for about 3 hours, and then just taking the lid off at the end to brown up the potatoes on top.
That is delicious. Goes so well with some red wine.
Oh, it would.
No, I'm not asking for it. Water, of course.
Lunchtime, Rick.
And while I'm tucking into her cooking, it seems a good opportunity to ask Helen, whose family have been farmers for as long as James's, about the book she's just published, The Farmer's Wife.
In your book, Helen, you've got lots of sort of old recipes, parents, grandparents' recipes.
That's right. My grandma baked and cooked, and a lot of the things she made would have been passed down. And she loved butter, cream. They knew how to save the beef drippings, and they made the stocks from the bones. A roast dinner would last them a week with the cold cuts. It doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to cost the earth.
You are, I have to say, preaching to the converted.
I know.
If I eat something that we've grown out there on the farm, and I know that we looked after it really well, it was part of a really good system, and then it tastes that good, that gives me a real buzz and a real pride.
Well, it gives me a real pride in our national cuisine as well, really. I mean, because it's world class.
Helen's hot pot has reminded me how much those wonderful old family recipes have contributed to our modern cuisine. And I've commandeered the services of my son and chef, Jack, to revive a Stein family favourite.
What are you going to do with that? You're going to mince that?
Well, no, I threw it away a month ago, the mincer.
A lot of chopping for you then.
Yeah, a lot of chopping.
I'm using a delicious leg of Herdwick lamb, which we've already had part of for Sunday lunch. And I'm going to make my mum Dorrie's leftover lamb shepherd's pie.
The great thing about this shepherd's pie is it's using previously cooked meat.
Make the most of your Sunday roast.
Exactly, exactly.
So I'm just chop some vegetables.
Yeah, no, I need the onions and the carrot.
Garlic?
Okay. No garlic. Should never have used garlic, gosh.
It's always nice when I used to, read in your books, this is my mum's recipe.
Yes.
I've never actually cooked along with you. One of her actual official dishes. I've always had to sort of make them up myself, but...
The thing about it was that she just kept it all simple. By the way, she wouldn't have thrown that away either. Bit of stock.
We got that on the kids' table.
Yeah, I mean, some of her stocks, she wasn't great on refrigeration from time to time. Remember, some of her stocks were a little bit on the tart side.
Well, yeah,
but
I think she's definitely handed that down to you.
Thank you, Jack.
Gently fry the veg for about 5 minutes and add your lamb. She would really go for it, adding flavour with some tomato puree, leftover gravy stock, salt and pepper, and peas, which I think is a great addition to a shepherd's pie.
The other things that need to go in there, I put in a little bit of just browning in there. That's good.
What is browning? I've sort of seen it around.
It's just caramel.
For good measure, my mum would also add Worcestershire sauce, red currant jelly, parsley, and rosemary. And then there's Jack's contribution, which he assures me is crucial. A teaspoon of Marmite.
Let's taste it. That's wizard. Isn't that nice, eh?
Wizard. You said it on the TV in 1994 when I was at the most critical point of my secondary schooling, and every kid seemed to have watched that episode the night before, and they just were, oh, it was a nightmare. That and saying I had an imaginary friend. When everyone at school knows you've got an imaginary friend and your dad says wizard. Yeah, tough.
Oh dear, I'm so sorry, Jack. Back to the pie. You'll need to mash 1 kilo of potatoes. Once your lamb is in an oven-proof dish, spoon the potato on top. Fluff the surface with a fork so that you get those lovely crispy bits. Then pop the lot into a hot oven.
Set timer 20 minutes.
20 minutes, counting down.
Thank you. Wizard. Really?
Probably.
Just the smell coming out of the oven takes me back to memories of my mum's wonderful home cooking. It was definitely her who inspired me to become a chef.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
It smelled really good.
It's the Marmite, I'd imagine.
Probably the Marmite. Tell me what you think. Isn't that good?
Yeah. What's nice is it's because it's not minced lamb, it's roast lamb. You get all the fat from the actual roast itself.
Yeah.
So it gives it that really unctuous kind of
texture.
Yeah, what a lovely way to use up leftovers.
Well, I think so. And to me, it just reminds me of all those good times in a house in Burford.
Yeah, exactly. It's, taste through memory, So I'll be able to give this to my kids. It'll be the great-grandmother's dish.
Yeah.
And then the great-great-great-grandmother's dish.
It's great. Food memories.
Exactly.
Best part of life, I think.
Cheers.
In Cumbria, it's not just the land that yields amazing produce, but the sea too. At the southwestern tip of this county's 180-mile coastline is the pretty little market town of Ulverston. It's Flag Fortnight, when the shops, restaurants and bars adorn themselves with banners to welcome the festival season. But that's not the only thing this town is known for.
Now this is a bit of fun. This is on my food journey. I love picking up details like this. We're in Ulverston, and it is actually where Stan Laurel was born. I'm a great fan of Laurel and Hardy. You either love slapstick comedy or you don't. And always it was Stan that got them into trouble. He was the one that was always swinging around with a ladder and knocking Ollie over, and then stepping into a pot of paint. And then there's a thing over there. Here's another nice mess you've gotten me into. And that was always what Ollie said to Stan. The thing that I really like about Laurel and Hardy, I think like all comedy duos, there's something that clicks when they're on screen together. And it's very interesting that when Ollie died, Stan never filmed again. And I think that's because he realised that together they were so perfect.
Apparently Stan, who was born in this house here, used to go shopping with his gran for his favourite locally made treat, Beer's treacle toffee. But I'm in search of a different Cumbrian delicacy. It's made with brown shrimps, which are caught just beyond Ulverston in Morecambe Bay, where I was lucky enough to go shrimp fishing 20 years ago with my old friend Ray Edmonson, whose shop, I'm glad to say, is still going strong and sells the food this part of the world is traditionally famous for, Morecambe Bay potted shrimps. Ray's is particularly popular, though he's never revealed how he makes it.
Hello.
Now then, how nice to see you.
It's very nice to see you, Ray.
After all these years.
Well, it's been a long time, but I've always remembered your potted shrimps, have to say.
That's what I like to hear.
I know, and also going out on your boat. The boat's all right then?
The boat's just running okay, yeah.
Okay.
It's like me getting a bit older.
Well, how old would it be now then?
It's coming up towards 50. A video here.
So is that the launch? Well, that must be quite a special occasion
It
for
was,
you.
it was.
Ray built his boat himself after jacking in his job as an engineer to realise his dream of becoming a fisherman.
It's the first time I've ever built a boat.
And the last?
And the last.
And look at all those other boats. Are they other shrimping boats in the
Yeah,
background?
there was about
then?
30 boats, all
So
shrimping.
different.
They gradually all dwindled over the years.
So how many boats are left now then?
There's me and one other lad.
And only 2 boats left. And there's you, lots of hair, looking very handsome.
Yeah.
I had long hair too. Well, that's lovely.
There we go.
And could I try some of your legendary potted shrimps?
There you go.
And is this is your recipe? Mace, isn't it? It's mace.
Oh, I can't tell you. There's a mixture of things.
That is such a sort of classic British flavour, I think. It would just
I can give you a little sniff at tub if you want.
of the spices.
Yeah. Well, just have a little sniff there. Yeah?
It's lovely. It's just that, I know you won't tell me what's in it, but I know there's mace in it. But it's just that little bit of spice. I mean, I think that these shrimps are a real delicacy. I'm not wrong. They're so sweet.
They're lovely, aren't they?
Aren't they great?
Yeah.
I do think that brown shrimps, found all around our coastline, are something we've slightly forgotten about. Yet they're so much tastier than the imported prawns we all insist on buying. And it's sad to hear from Ray how few people are fishing for them these days. Which is why I'm delighted to be on the way to meet someone who does still keep himself very busy fishing for brown shrimps.
Morning.
Funnily enough, he's called Ray too.
Ray? Oh, hello there. Sorry. Nice to meet you. Hello.
But instead of using a boat, he goes fishing in this wonderfully ancient tractor with its specially adapted trailer.
This is the kit.
This is it, yeah. It's all mainly homemade.
Well, I can see that. It looks like an artist's creation.
It does, yes.
It's quite special.
Ray's setup harks back to the horse and cart method of fishing for shrimps, popular in these parts from the 18th century until the 1960s. The cart that was used had a wonderful name. It was called a tra-la-la.
Got a pole here that we pull out.
Looks like a scaffolding pole, if I'm not...
It is, it's all scaffolding pole, yes. Then there's a net either side. Pull the nets out, troll for 20 minutes or so, then check your nets.
So you go out at low tide then? Well, obviously you need to get out there, but what happens? Why at low tide?
As the tide recedes, the shrimps go down with it, so they're more concentrated. The shrimps follow the run, the channel going down.
OK.
So we try and get just on the edge, and hopefully you can get some clean shrimps that way.
And how far do you go out?
Between 2 and 5 miles.
5 miles?
Yeah, that's probably...
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You can't see the shore or anything?
No.
I read somewhere that the tides can go faster than a horse can run. Is that true? Is it
on a big tide, yes,
yeah.
yes. You know, you've got to have one eye on the tide in the weather. If it's windy, it can come in half an hour sooner.
And, I mean, they're a bit old, the tractors.
They are. That's probably same age as me. It's probably 50, 80-year-old.
Do they ever stop out there?
Occasionally, yeah. It does happen. No, a wheel fell off last year and I had to run home and get help. But
it just seems to me like a really tough way of life, but you love it, do you?
Oh, yeah, I love it, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Not so brilliant when the rain's pouring in your face and things, but on a nice day, there's nowhere better. It is antiquated, this way of fishing, you know, but it's sustainable and we just keep doing it, yeah.
Great.
The vast flats of mud and sand of Morecambe Bay that make up Ray's fishing ground are the biggest in the UK, covering an area of 120 square miles. Ray's been doing this job since he was 19, running the daily gauntlet of racing tides and ever-shifting quicksands.
See ya!
But I'm much happier to stay at least within sight of the coastline.
I've just been walking out, just keep walking out on this flat plain and just sort of observing how my brain's going, really, because I'm starting to feel a bit uneasy. The further I go, the more it feels like I'm in a desert. And the more I look out there, I think, where's the tide? Where's the sea? Is this going to be all right? Then I turn back, and there's that beautiful landscape there, and it's sort of accentuated because I'm in this sort of uncertain area, and that is safety. I'm also thinking about Ray working out there trawling for those shrimps, and they'll soon have to start coming in because the tide's coming in. There's nothing about that rig that isn't exactly what's necessary to do the job. There is a sort of practicality, a common sense about it. And there's, I don't know, there's something great about the sort of British character, I think. It's sort of, when you get out here and you meet people like that, you realise that, actually, we've got a lot of sense.
Speaking of common sense, I'd better get back to terra firma. And I'm just in time to see what Ray and his tractor have managed to catch.
How was it?
Yeah, we haven't done too bad.
Oh, you got some fish?
Fish as well, a couple of thornbacks and a couple of plaice.
Oh, brilliant. They look lovely. Nice place. And look at those.
Yeah, they're a good box of shrimps there.
So how long have we got before you have to cook them, really?
As fast as possible, to be honest.
Yeah, like lobsters, all those shellfish go to mush.
They do go to mush quite quick,
do
especially if they get a bit of sun on them, yeah, so every drip's a penny.
Every drip's a penny.
It's a grey day in Padstow, but I have some fresh Morecambe Bay shrimps. And I want to show you how to turn potted shrimps into something worthy of a place on any modern table.
I'm going to make some crumpets to go with them, and I'm going to poach an egg. It's a nice little starter, I think, with just a crumpet, poached eggs, and potted shrimps. So first of all, we're going to make the crumpet batter.
Combine some plain flour with warm water, then add your yeast, baking powder, sugar, and some salt. Give it some welly as you whisk that lot together, and then cover it and leave to rest for 30 minutes. Now for the potted shrimps.
First of all, just melt some butter, and I'm adding some mace, about a teaspoon, then some cayenne pepper. I like a bit of bite in my potted shrimps, and some white pepper, and just let those spices infuse for half a minute while the butter melts.
Then in go my lovely juicy shrimps to warm through.
Potted shrimps for me, it goes back to a time when, in the 60s, an orange juice was an entree, was a starter, or a tomato juice. So potted shrimps was a bit sort of luxurious.
To finish, simply portion the shrimps into ramekins, top with clarified butter, which has had the milk solids removed, and pop into the fridge to set. Time to return to the crumpet batter, which should have started to rise.
Oh yes, look at that. Lovely action from that instant yeast. Really brought the whole thing to life. So first of all, I've got this already heated up. Just going to brush a lot of butter over it. Then I'm going to put a lot of butter in my crumpet rings. Excuse the butter all over the worktop.
Divide your foaming batter between the rings.
OK, now we wait.
For 4 to 5 minutes until the crumpet surface is dry and full of holes. Then flip them over for 30 seconds. There's nothing like a freshly homemade crumpet, in my opinion, with a poached egg on top, a generous dollop of potted shrimps, and a sprinkling of chives.
It's a typical summer's day here in Cornwall. Rain on the roof, I don't know if you can hear it. But this sort of dish is designed to cheer you up, I think. That crumpet is so nice. I purposely put quite a lot of cayenne pepper in there, but the mace, that's a very British spice, and white pepper. It's quite sort of exotic in a funny sort of way, but very British as well. Just the right thing for a rainy lunch.
And a dish like that, like its key ingredient, deserves pride of place in our national cuisine. Next time, I'm in Argyll.
It's so peaceful. If you leave the house with a problem, by the time you've been out here for half an hour, you don't have a problem. It is an amazing therapy.
The first thing to do is pull the tail off, then crack them.
We're picking scurvy grass.
Crikey.
Pretty punchy.
Punchy? That would have said it's poisonous.